We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Thursday, May 29th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and you're tuning into News Generation. Joining us today is Cheska Dainha.
Happy Thursday, everyone!
Happy Thursday! Yeah. And Julia Kim.
Happy Thursday.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. We're going to begin with our keyword news for this Thursday. Today's keyword is Seoul. Now, South Korea's capital has made a notable leap in this year's Global Cities Index published by Oxford Economics. Out of 8,000 cities around the world, Seoul ranked 15th overall, climbing 26 spots from last year. And that makes it the second highest ranked city in Asia behind Tokyo, which came in 9th. Now, the index evaluates cities based on 5 key categories, which are economy, human capital, quality of life, environment, and governance. And Seoul scored particularly well in human capital, placing 5th globally thanks to its world-class universities and the presence of major global corporations. And it also performed strongly in economic strength, coming in at 18th based on indicators like GDP and employment. However, the city's rankings in quality of life, governance, and especially environment fell into the triple digits. The lowest score was in the environmental category due to poor air quality and abnormal weather patterns linked to climate change. So, both of our panelists, including myself, are living in Seoul. So as a Seoul resident, can you relate to these findings?
Yeah, I can definitely see why Seoul has gotten these rankings. As someone who has recently moved to the city a little over a year ago, I've really come to enjoy what the city has to offer. However, in regards to its low ranking quality of life, governance, and environment, it is definitely hard to ignore this in our daily life, especially when we go through days where the air quality is just absolutely horrendous.
Right.
But given how Seoul has been quickly improving and how much I personally really enjoy living in the city, I am pretty optimistic to see how things will play out in the future.
Right. So if we get to improve air quality a little bit more, maybe we could see the ranking climbing up a bit more next year or the year after that. And what are your thoughts on this, Cheska?
Yeah, I'm also very optimistic too because I've also lived in New York, which is actually
ranked first.
In the index. So I was kind of looking at the chart and thinking to myself, I can see why Korea has jumped 26 rankings in just a year, but I think it could have bumped up a little bit higher because there are so many great things about Seoul City that you just don't get in other places. I know it talked about life quality and the reason for it being ranked so low had to do with housing problems as well, but you know, the cost of living, fast service, security, I think all deserve a higher ranking. And personally, as someone living in Seoul, I love Seoul. So every city has its pros and cons, as Julian said, but I really think Seoul is a great city to live in many ways.
Yeah, we love Seoul. Now, meanwhile, as Cheska briefly mentioned, New York, London, and Paris took the top 3 spots on the global list, and that wraps up our keyword news for this Thursday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Take a look at the screen to find out more on today's topic. From skyrocketing grocery bills to rising rent, young people around the world are continuing to feel the pressure of inflation. Today on News Generation, we're going to take a closer look at how young people are adapting with smart creative strategies to respond to high prices. Right, so we are back talking about the economy and the lifestyle trends of young people because it's been said that young people in Korea are shifting the way they spend to cope with rising prices, which seems to always be making headlines not only here in Korea but in other parts of the world. So Cheska, what specific changes are we seeing here in the country?
Yeah, I think it's really important to notice these things because we are the younger generation as well. But I think one of the most notable indicator is the huge rise in second-hand trade and sales because it indicates that people are becoming more financially savvy. And I think the figures can tell the story, so let's take a look at the screen. Now, South Korea's second-hand market, and we've converted in US dollars for convenience, but in Korean won, we reached 26 trillion won in 2023, and it's projected to grow as large as 43 trillion won this year. Now, that's a pretty dramatic increase if you look at the figures, because compared to just 4 trillion won back in 2008, that's a huge jump of almost 6 times in less than a decade. And the MZ generation do make up a major portion of this market, which includes myself as well. We are very much drawn to secondhand items that often feel brand new. And also because of social media, the secondhand market has become very, very active. So we cannot ignore the fact that this generation is definitely also tight on budget. So we try to be very, very finance savvy. So without limited budget, it opens more options and variety. And many in this generation actually live in small spaces, like we call it one room, but it's like pretty much a studio apartment. So it's impossible to pack a lot of things in it. So we have to be really practical and, space savvy. So it's more practical to buy used items at lower cost and then resell them when we move to a different place or when we want to upgrade our home. So I think in many ways people are choosing secondhand market for both financial reasons but also practical reasons as well.
So secondhand trading is definitely one big example, but as a generation who really loves challenges, I heard that there is a finance savvy challenge that has gone viral among our generation, right, Julian?
Yeah, so this challenge is called the no spending challenge, and it's very popular amongst our generation. So it's basically when an individual tests themselves to see how much or how little money they can spend. For instance, we might brew coffee at home, bring a packed lunch to work, or just cook at home instead of going out for dinner. If we go several days without spending, we will give ourselves a little treat, or it's like going out for a little sweet treat or going out for a quick meal or something like that. Now, many millennials and Gen Zers share their experience with the no spending challenge on social media. So if you are interested in learning more, there's plenty of content to check out about this challenge.
So secondhand trading and also this no spending challenge, this is part of the trend that we actually touched on before here on Newsgen, which is called 짠테크. Now, for our international viewers, this is a Korean slang term combining stingy and finance, referring to ultra frugal money habits. So before we move on further, we're gonna see just how thrifty our panelists are with a fun O and X quiz. So please raise the O and X sign depending on whether you've tried these habits before. So number one, have you ever tried app tech, which is earning pocket money by completing small missions through mobile apps on your phone? What would you say? 1, 2, 3. Cheska chose X, Julian O. Let's start with Cheska.
I think time is also money, and I've definitely tried to use these apps before, but I felt like I was spending more time on the app
than you actually earn.
Exactly, and I know every penny counts, I really do, but sometimes I feel like this time could be spent on doing something else, so I have not.
All right, then let's hear from Julian. So you've actually tried this.
Yeah, so I admittedly haven't tried it a lot, but I have tried it in the past, and I mean every single little cent counts. So if you add up all the pocket change, you could end up buying like a fried chicken or anything like that. So I say why not?
And it's not just fried chicken. You can also buy movie tickets or hamburger sets. So yeah, definitely. So let's move on to our second statement, which is, have you ever bought or sold something secondhand? And we already have an answer from Cheska, but we're going to just do it. So 1, 2, 3. O and X. So could you tell us a bit more about your experience?
If I could, it's a very big O.
Very big O.
Because I'm actually moving my house right now, and I am in the middle of buying and selling on a secondhand market very actively.
What kind of items?
Oh my God, I sold my old chair, my cabinet. I even sell like plates, keyboards, because in Korea we have this app, a very big secondhand sales app, and you can pretty much get anything and sell anything on it. So I've sold everything, and on top of that, I'm buying like furnitures, lamps, and they come with a really affordable price. So I think it's becoming a really smart way to earn a little bit of income when I sell them. But I also have this really weird sense of pride when I find like gem in the second.
I found it, right?
I know. I'm like, I got this for like $5 less than the original price. So there's a little bit of fun in that too. Yeah.
Definitely. As a person who is doing secondhand trading, I can agree.
Right?
So much with Cheska. Well, Julian, why haven't you done secondhand trading?
I have looked through the apps, I browsed and looked at the items, but when it comes to buying something secondhand, I am a little wary about it, if I'm going to be honest.
Because of the product quality? Or?
Yes, especially the quality, but when it comes to things like damages or warranty, there are just some things I would personally prefer buying new, but I am open to trying buying something secondhand too. I'm not against it, I just haven't had the chance to so far.
Well, hope you have a chance really soon. And finally, have you ever tried what Julia mentioned, the no spending challenge? 1, 2, 3. X and O. So we're going to hear from Cheska first.
I mean, I would love to at one point, and I did try. I think it lasted 10 hours.
Well, I think yours lasted longer than mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for making me feel better. But for someone who is working and having meetings all the time and is around the clock, It's virtually impossible when you are lugging your luggage, your laptop, your next gym clothes, and then you have to pack your lunch, put in a tumbler, and then 3 pieces of snacks. It's just better to run to a cafe, get a quick coffee, and then head to the next meeting or next schedule. So as much as I would love to try, it wasn't very efficient for me. So I wasn't able to keep it up.
I mean, this challenge is not easy for everyone, depending on your circumstances.
I think it's amazing for people who are able to do it, but I also think it takes a certain environment to be able to execute it.
Then Julian, you answered you've tried it before, so tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it is very difficult to do the challenge, I must admit that. But as someone who does really enjoy eating out and going shopping, I do like to do the challenge because it forces me to really think about my spending habits and also just try to limit how much money I spend. So I know like Jessica's mentioned, when you go out, it's almost impossible. But other than essentials, I feel like sometimes I spend things like unnecessary items. So I do the challenge for me to try to avoid spending money on things I don't need.
Are you planning to try it again?
Not right now, but maybe I should do it after the show.
That was a very long pause. I don't think so.
Okay, so far we've heard from our panelists. Time to hear from our viewers. We also asked them the same question. What have you done to cut down on expenses? So we ran a poll on our Arirang News YouTube channel. 59% answered they've gone out less, followed by 30% bought fewer things, and then shopped secondhand 7%, and saved water and laundry 4%. Right, but this isn't a trend limited to Korea, money-saving trends. So I want to ask you, are there any other examples that young people from other countries are adopting?
I think for one, definitely, I know for sure that America has a very big second-hand market because I've lived in there also. But apparently Japan is also on the rise to become a second-hand market enthusiast, especially the young people. Traditionally, they're very cautious with investments. So over half of Japanese household financial assets are almost kept in savings, compared to about 13% in the US, which I know for a fact, and about only 36% in the Eurozone. But now, perhaps because of the economic downturn and maybe a little bit of mistrust in how the world is going, more people, because of the aging society, are turning to investments and savings and secondhand goods. And it also, I think, has to do a little bit with our characteristic of this generation too. We're very environmentally savvy. We care a lot about the environment, and we care a lot about the things, how our actions affect the world. So in a way, I think more MZ consumers are choosing used items, not only because it's practical and financially savvy, but it's also environmentally conscious. Like I told you, like when I buy or find gems in the secondhand market, I feel a sense of pride that I actually did something good. Instead of just spending a lot of money to buy a brand new item, I'm actually getting something that can recycle, that can be used. So I'm adding something to the world that hasn't been done before.
Then Julian, what about in other parts of the world?
Yeah, so young consumers in the United States are also experiencing similar changes too. The No Buy Year Challenge is also a commitment where people try to eliminate unnecessary purchases for a whole year, except for essentials such as like toiletries or food or something like that. Participants now share their experience on social media, fostering a community and encouraging others to save too. There also is a new term, I actually just recently learned about this, called the recession blonde.
Recession blonde.
Yeah, so it basically highlights a trend where women who are blonde, who find it hard to maintain their blonde color, they just go back to their natural hair color because during economic downturns, because it is too expensive to maintain that.
Wow.
Yeah, but aside from beauty, now regarding shopping, the U.S. secondhand market has grew from $44 billion in 2023, and is now expected to reach about $73 billion in 2028. Walmart's walk-in bag, which resembles the Hermes Birkin bag, has become a huge hit too. Now these dupes have exploded in popularity across many categories such as clothing, electronics, and cosmetics. Now this trend reflects a more practical and sensible approach to consumption, focusing on value rather than the fact that it is a counterfeit product.
Okay, very interesting. So to learn more about how young people in other parts of the world are handling rising costs, after the break, we'll connect with a young person from Hungary.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Hungarian millennial Saba. Welcome to the show, Saba.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, Saba, we'd first like to ask you, are you also seeing a growing movement of money saving in Hungary? And could you share some examples as well?
So, unfortunately, we've been having some economic hardships for a long time now. So, it's not quite a new thing for us. But also, I think this has kind of given us a chance to get used to certain tactics and just develop newer ideas and just do all these measures without it affecting us or our mental health more seriously. I would say maybe the methods that younger people use would be that instead of just going out and having fun in, let's say, restaurants or bars, they just buy their drinks, their food, or whatever they would like to do, and they just come together at home. Also, many people are still staying with their parents, or they decide to move into shared apartments and houses if they are living in the capital, Budapest.
You know, Saba, there are many ways that young people are becoming financially savvy, but one of the most common ways here in South Korea that they do, as we talked about, is through second-hand trading or second-hand sales. Now, since moving to Korea, have you ever tried buying or selling items on second-hand market? And if so, what are your thoughts on it?
I use it mostly to sell items as I really hate wasting and throwing out still completely fine items. But yes, of course, I also bought some kitchen tools like air fryer. I also bought like mattress steamers, so things that I wouldn't necessarily use every day. And I don't need to rely on it for years and years and just expect it not to get broken in the middle of random Wednesday when I try to do my chores. I always am careful if the quality is still good, if the electronic devices work. But other than that, I can really recommend it as it saves a lot of money and it also reduces the amount of trash that we produce, which is of more and more growing importance. There's one more thing that I can really recommend is that if we don't need something, we can absolutely share those with our friends. For example, I had some friends who left Korea and they gave me a lot of clothes or household items that they didn't need anymore and they couldn't bring home. And I got perfectly fine, almost new items for completely free.
Great. Now to wrap things up, I have a question for you. Do you have any personal saving habits that you would recommend?
I think originally I live by the no spending challenge most of the time. But I do have some measures, for example, or not measures, methods. For example, if I like something online, you know, marketing is really good nowadays and they just like to put the shiny things in front of you. So all I do is I go on the websites and I browse and browse, I overwhelm myself with all these choices. I put everything in my cart, in my interested list, and then I just leave it there and never check out. Most of the time, I forget about them completely. But if there is an item or two that I still think about for days or sometimes weeks, then it means it wasn't just an impulse and it might actually fulfill something deep inside of me. Another thing would be using cash instead of card, especially when people have check cards and not credit cards, of course, that builds credit. But instead of check cards, it is really, really discouraging when you see physically your money just disappearing from your wallet the more you spend. And it really makes you think, do I need this? Is it an absolute necessity that I just need in this moment? It makes you think, and it's, I think, a really, really good way of doing it.
Very smart ideas. All right, Saba, thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I think that it's safe to say that one of the most important parts of saving money is knowing where to cut back and where not to. So ending off, what's something you always save on? Or are there any other tips that you'd like to share with our viewers to become finance savvy?
I think one of the tips that I would like to share, or something that we can all work on, which can be very simple, is changing our perception on how we look at secondhand goods or even a little bit worn out goods. Because I think our generation or our previous generation had this perception that, you know, if something is just a little bit off or a little bit different or a little bit worn out, you have to completely replace it with new, whether it's because you want to keep up an image or it's because you feel like it's no longer sustainable. But sometimes you can still carry a bag with a little bit of scratch mark on it. You can still wear a clothes with a little bit of stain on it. So I think it is okay to build these habits and also perception on how we look at other people and how we judge ourselves. That can actually foster, I think, a more healthier, financial savvy habits, because I think sometimes we buy things not necessarily because we really want to, but because your friend is upgrading her phone or he bought a new car and I feel like I need to catch up. I need to catch up with it too. So maybe it's a more of a social perception thing and we can all work on this together. And hey, if someone's carrying a bag that looks a little bit worn out, consider a vintage.
Yeah, it's a vintage, classic one.
It's a classic vintage, a little bit of scar mark. It adds character.
What would you suggest, Julian?
Yeah, so personally for me, I agree with everything, and someone who doesn't really do secondhand shopping, I should look into that more. But
there's some great gems out there, Julian.
I would agree. I would say so. I will. But looking at your average spending in category, I would say that's like the best way to see where you can cut back on. For example, for me, I used to have a really bad habit of going out for coffee or for matcha or smoothies or any drink, buying that outside, but it costs so much less when you make it at home, and it's just healthier too. So that to me was like one of the best ways I decided to like cut back on my daily spending. So, but I will always spend money on things I enjoy, such as like my hobbies, and one of them is traveling. It's a hobby I truly enjoy, and I believe spending money and experiences is very, very worth it. But so I would say if there's a passion or a hobby you truly enjoy that it is for your betterment of your life, I don't think it's fair to cut back on that. And saving is important, but also enjoying things. So it's all about, I would say, balancing things, buying necessary things or things that make you happy instead of things that are not necessarily necessary.
Okay, and that's all we have for today, but Newsden will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks to Cheska Dain-ha.
Pleasure's always mine. Thank you.
Thank you, and Julian Kim.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and to our viewers, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.